Meantime, happening right now, a closed-door meeting of the UN Security Council on the response to a chemical attack on Syria. CNN has learned this meeting is at the request of Russia. Diplomats from Britain, China, France, Russia, and the United States are there right now. Meantime, the U.S. intelligence on Syria is in, and it shows the movement of chemical weapons in the lead-up to a deadly sarin gas attack in the outskirts of Damascus. A senior U.S. official telling CNN it was, quote, not a rogue element of Assad's regime behind this attack, and there was no evidence to show it was an attack from the rebel side. Right now, UN chemical weapons inspectors, they are still there in country, still inside Syria. There they are wearing the gas mask, collecting blood samples. They are expected to leave on Saturday and report its findings sometime after that. All of this happening as a debate in the UK Parliament today on whether to act militarily, and it got pretty fiery. Take a look for yourself.
The UK government expected that we should vote for a blank cheque that would have allowed UK military action before UN weapons inspectors concluded their investigations and before their detailed evidence was provided to the United Nations or indeed members of this House. And having been misled on reasons for war in Iraq, the least the UK government could have done is provide detailed evidence, and frankly, they have not.
Here in the U.S., there will be no debate. White House officials today merely briefing members of Congress about the possible plan of action that happens in just about 3.5 hours from now Eastern Time. And one of the many voices urging caution today on Syria is syndicated columnist David Sirota. He joins us live from Denver. David, nice to see you as always. We're going to get to your reservations about this here in just a minute, but I just want to show a series of famous, or maybe we should say infamous, photographs. So let me begin here. This is the UN Security Council. This was February 3rd, 2003. Here he was, Secretary of State Colin Powell, presenting what he said was evidence of Iraqi weapons of mass destruction, including nerve agents and poison gas. As we all now know, those American claims proved false. And I'm just wondering to you, David, does that history from 10 years ago, does that handicap President Obama? Does it raise the bar for him in terms of convincing the world that Syria has in fact used these chemical weapons?
Absolutely. I think it does raise the bar, and I think President Obama in a recent interview actually acknowledged that, saying that essentially to the American public that this is not going to become, at least from his perspective, another Iraq. Now, whether you trust him or not when it comes to military intervention, it's clear that the White House has Iraq and really America's collective memory of Iraq on its mind. And I think that's okay. I think the bar being set high to prove to the world that military intervention is legitimate, that should be the expectation here. Whether we went through Iraq or not, we have a right to know what U.S. national interests are at stake and whether military intervention really will create positive outcomes in terms of the humanitarian crisis in Syria, because there is a humanitarian crisis there.
It is, when it comes to Iraq, certainly in the collective memory. And then you have Congress, as we mentioned, that conference call happening at 6 o'clock Eastern Time. You have members of both parties really demanding that the president bring them in on this, perhaps actually seeking congressional approval. And I just want to play some quick sound, because this is a dissenting voice on that, no less a Republican here. Take a listen.
Let me make it clear. I believe the president can take this action without authorization from the Congress. I believe he has, as commander-in-chief, he has the right to take this action. It's in his interest to consult with the leadership in the House and Senate, but I don't believe he has to.
How important do you think it is, David Sirota, that the president get that mark of approval, get that congressional authorization before striking?
It's absolutely 100% critical, and Barack Obama of 2008 understood that it was critical when he gave an interview to the Boston Globe in which he said that as president he does not have the authority, he would not have the right under the U.S. Constitution to bomb a country when that country doesn't pose an imminent threat to the United States. Congressional approval is really essentially the approval of the American public. That's why the precepts in the Constitution mandate that Congress has a say over this. Congress gets to declare war. That's effectively garnering consent of the public. If the president goes forward without that consent of the public,
which we know he can do,
it's completely illegitimate.
which we
well, he can, but there are constitutional questions, and there are certainly questions about why did he get elected in 2008 saying that he couldn't, and then turn around and, if he does this, then essentially ignore his own words.
It's a point to be made. David Sirota, thank you very much, David.